Welcome back. We are so happy that you're here at the Human Skills Lab because human skills aren't soft, they're essential. I'm Heidi Peace, an educator, and I'm so excited to be here with you.
And I'm Kobe Campbell, a school counselor and a licensed clinical social worker. We're here to encourage and equip you to build the skills for a better life. You might be feeling overwhelmed or just looking for a little motivation, and you're in the right place. Although we come from an education background, this podcast is intended for everyone.
In every episode, we'll share practical tips, personal stories, and strategies you can use. Plus, we'll answer your questions and maybe even have some fun along the way.
So take a deep breath. We're going to figure this out together. We're so glad you're here.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. Also, our views are our own and do not reflect the school district for where we work.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We always start with accountability check-in. And let's see. So our last episode was about purging junk.
Clutter, mental, physical,
emotional,
cognitive, emotional.
all the junk. And so Heidi, how did you do on your accountability piece? Yours, I think, was to think to the future and how good it will feel to have addressed the clutter, then set a timer for 10 minutes and just get going.
Yeah, typically I would say when you actually set yourself up to do 10 minutes, you actually do more. So I'd say I was successful. But I think what really helped is the thinking of what my future me would think. And go, oh, this really does feel good. And sometimes you find little gems too from the past. Like, for instance, before I left work, I was like, oh, I'm going to write down X, Y, and Z that I need to do, and then what I've already done so that I can remember. And then future me will be thankful for past me. And then, so I do that, and then I'm grateful. And it gives me a lot of motivation because I'm like, this really will help me in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, very successful with it. And I'm going to keep doing it because really it's just a small amount of time, but it does add up.
Yeah, it really does. I tend to try to do that. I use the future me concept at the end of the school year when I'm sort of purging materials I haven't used, trying to set myself up. I always think when I return in August, am I going to be happy with June me or am I going to be mad at June me? So that's actually a really good strategy to use. For my accountability check-in, I was going to think of the purpose of the item, particularly as it relates to the new space that I'm in, the person that I am in this space, right? Just the adjustment and the change, moving to a new home and a new location. And I have to say, I haven't had much time or opportunity to do that. We're kind of in a holding pattern. But just the past couple of days, now that we're off for winter break, my husband and I have felt a little more, oh, wait, this might be good here, or I don't know that this fits anymore. So we've done like just a teeny tiny bit of it. Most of the time we haven't been able to do that just because it's been extremely busy at work. And when we get home, it's the holidays, right? And other obligations and all those things. So, that's something we've started to do. I can't say that we've been 100% successful just because we haven't had an opportunity, but moving into this next, little bit of time off, I think that that's something we're really going to keep in mind.
I do want to validate you that there's so much to do.
Can I declutter my to-do list? I think that's a better use of my decluttering skills right now.
Well, honestly, I was excited that I was off work for like 10 minutes and then I got home and then I was like, oh,
Ew.
there's just more work here.
More to do. What happened? No, but I think
no, don't worry. It's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
if you're setting your boat to the right coordinates, it's gonna happen.
And it brings me back to our first episode, clarifying your values, really attempting to live my values. And wellness is a huge value for me that is super tricky for me to live on a regular basis during the school year. And so I'm working on that, but like rest is okay. That that push pull between, and I think that is a point to make about the purging and decluttering episode too, is that you need to give yourself grace. Like, especially if you have littles or, aging parents or all the things. Everybody has things that will get in the way. Give yourself grace and do the tiniest thing that you can without pushing yourself over the edge, because really rest is necessary.
And I also want to point out to the people who maybe are caring for children at their home, and they don't have outside of the work or outside of the home work, you are still working.
Yes.
Every summer, I put myself in that position for a couple months, and I run myself ragged
Yeah.
because I am in charge of my schedule. So I'm like, did I eat lunch today? Did I have any water today?
Yeah.
What? And then I realized it was me. My manager, me
Yes.
inside me
Your boss, right?
was 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 a bit over the top
Yeah.
and
That's
controlling and telling me to do too much. So if you are your own boss at home, you do have a lot of things to do and you will fill that time. And you know what? Your family will also help you to fill that time. People
yes.
will ask you to do things because you are not getting a paycheck outside. So just know you're doing a lot and it's hard. Life's hard.
I as you were talking, and I was talking and thinking at the same time. As you were talking, I was thinking about decluttering our schedules and our expectations. Like, that just sort of brought up a whole new topic for me. Maybe we need to do an episode on that.
All right, I'll write
Decluttering
it
our
down.
expectations and the decluttering our schedules. Like, what really, like we talked about in the first episode, what moves the needle for us? What really is necessary? And what things in our schedules and our expectations are taking away from living our values.
Sounds great. I got it. Got it
All
all.
right, we're
Right.
ready.
And today we're going to talk about change and what
Yes.
helps change stick. And then people can call this a New Year's resolution. They can call it habits, but what actually does make change
Yeah.
stick?
Yeah. And I think this time of year, people start to think about reflecting on the year and what went well and what didn't, and what do we want to change for next year. And New Year's resolutions are a big thing that lots of people do. And I think there can be two or more camps on this, opinions on this. And there are some people who feel very strongly, yes, New Year's resolutions are the way to go. And some people who are like, oh no, I just don't do those. And there are good reasons for both. And whichever camp you fall into, it is okay. Nobody is saying you need to switch camps. I think this is an exploration today of resolutions and change and what gets in the way, what makes it work, and then alternatives maybe to your traditional sort of New Year's resolutions that are rigid and often fail. So, I mean, really, right?
Right. That's exactly right. I want to point out too that I drive past this very empty trail all year. But then in January, there's no parking anywhere, and
Yeah.
people are just filling up the streets that surround it, looking for parking for this trailhead until February.
What did
And
we
it is
find out?
then empty.
Yes, what did we find out? Like the second Friday in February is Quitter's Day for
Exactly.
the New Year's resolutions. Interesting. And I think, gyms would tell you the same thing. Membership booms in December and January, and then by
Yeah.
February it's empty again. And that can tend to be a pattern. So when we're talking about resolutions, what's the difference between like a habit or a resolution? And I think resolutions can be more outcome focused and time bound and rigid, whereas habits can be more process focused, built on repetition, and then they become automatic. You don't even think about them anymore. A resolution tends to take a lot of effort and focus, and that's where you have to pay attention to it or it does not happen, whereas a habit becomes something that you do without even thinking. And a habit can come out of a resolution, but a resolution tends to be bigger and a more goal oriented, if that makes sense.
And a longer duration too, right? Like
Yeah.
your goal is to do the same resolution for a year.
Hmm.
You go by the standard New Year's resolution.
Yeah. And then, you might build habits that are around that resolution, right? And the resolution is to get healthier or whatever. You might walk for 30 minutes per day, and that could become a habit that's built around that resolution, but they are slightly different things. And habits tend to be easier to build than this sort of expectation we build up around resolutions, especially in the new year.
So what are the pros and cons of resolutions? Where you said there are two camps. So what are
Yeah,
our two camps? We have pro resolution and con resolution. And is there a
yeah.
third camp? Do we have, I don't know, somebody that can't
No,
get
I
enough
think maybe it's a meh camp. I don't know.
work?
You can take 'em or leave them, whatever, you know. So I think some of the pros are that they give us clarity and motivation and hope. There's that optimism. There's the meaning making. We're working towards something or potentially working towards something. Um, and then the cons, it can be sort of unrealistic, and we can feel pressure to do them or pressure if we fail, right? If we haven't set ourselves up in a way that works, that will help us to be more likely to be able to achieve our resolution, then that can feel like failure, and be discouraging. So resolutions, if you fall into that camp that I just don't do them, I don't like them, they don't work, they're not bad, they're just kind of often incomplete. There's more that we need to do around a resolution to make it work. Um,
And
so
and then before we go on to anything else, what camp do you fall in? So we know.
I'm kind of in the meh camp. I think some years, I mean, honestly, I feel like some years yes, I am doing this and this is how I'm going to do it, and I am gung ho and all in. One year, however, I decided I was going to stop drinking coffee, and that lasted for like a day or and a half or something. And it just depends, right? It depends on, and I think we'll get to this in a minute. It depends on where is my pain point and am I at it? Am I ready to change? You know, um, how dissatisfied am I with a particular thing in my life? Or do I feel like, change would be nice, but I don't like, there's nothing I feel super strongly about changing? Just kind of depends for me. I have been an absolute resolution person in the past, but I don't know how I feel about it now. I could take them or leave them, I think.
Yeah. And
How about you?
for me, I think it's really important to understand that a year is a really long time. And
Yeah.
sometimes you need to take big goals and chunk them up into a whole bunch of small goals. So, like, I think getting fit
Mm,
is kind of a needs improvement goal. It's just not well stated.
yeah.
I mean, how about I need to walk 3 times a week? Great.
Hmm.
I need to do weight training. I need to throw in some box jumps for my bone density. What one giant goal?
Mm,
If I just took a whole class of my students, I'm like, okay, by the end of the year, you're going to do all of these things, and they're going to be like, I'm not even going to start because that's
yeah.
overwhelming. So I
Well,
think if the goal is too big,
yeah.
it it's not on purpose, but it just makes the whole thing kind of vague and not able to follow through. So I go towards smaller goals each week, each day. Like, I think probably because of my teacher training, like, you're supposed to reflect after every single time you teach a lesson. And I
Yeah.
do that minimum of 6 times a day.
Yeah.
So like I'm on like constant reflection and goal setting. Like
Yeah.
that's how I do it. And you also need to know when to pivot too. Like is that getting fit going to be a good goal if you get sick?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden that's not a good goal anymore. You're going to be on like how do I get well again? Not going to run a marathon.
Yeah.
So I think you have to know when to quit and you have to know when to stick with it. And I think constant reflection beats a one-time deal.
So when you're talking about knowing when to quit and having that huge overarching goal that feels like too much, I think that may be why the resolutions are then incomplete. I think that's really it, is you have this big goal, but then you haven't operationalized it. And we'll talk about that a little more in the tips in terms of it can become very overwhelming to have this huge goal and you're not sure how you're going to do it, right? So creating that action plan. Um, so one of the things I think to explore is why do we set New Year's resolutions and sort of the psychology behind it. And the first one is my favorite. I mean, it really, if I do set a New Year's resolution, this is why. I love a fresh start effect, right? The beginning of a year, a month, a week. You know, research shows that people are motivated after those landmarks. Maybe it's your birthday, right? You reflected on the year and you're gonna, this is what I'm gonna do differently in my whatever year of life. You know, that fresh start effect can help us separate from past mistakes and failures. We can feel like this time, like this is my fresh start, this time I'm really gonna do it. And then those benchmarks, you know, first of the year, first of the month, first of the week, our birthday, um, increase that likelihood of aspirational behavior, that person that we want to be. So that is one reason why we do set New Year's resolutions. And actually, when you're talking about habits, that's one of the strategies for building habits too, is that fresh start, starting at a time that makes place, that a time that makes sense, and or a new place that makes sense. Like you've just moved into a new home. I wonder who's done that. And you know, instead of doing things the old way, this is a chance to create something new. So that's, you know, a little bit about the fresh start effect. Um, I think another reason we do it, and another one of my favorites, is it gives meaning and hope, right? Purpose, meaning, and hope. Our brains are wired to find purpose and meaning. And we're wired for growth and self improvement. Some of us more than others. I have, that's like one of my core values, is that growth and self improvement. And that's what we're wired for. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to make those resolutions. Um,
And those goals gives us a direction. It gives us a purpose. It gives us a chance to activate hope. We
yeah.
we want to feel like things can change.
Yeah. That we're capable and that things can be better than they are. Another reason is social connection. You know, think about the fact that a lot of our society does participate in New Year's resolutions and or behavior change of some sort. You know, as I'm driving sometimes down the street, one of the back ways that I take to work, I see people doing CrossFit, right? There's a CrossFit gym and they're all running down the street and back, and like it's that social connection, that shared accountability, that goal that you're doing together, that support that you get. That's you know, one of the things that we're wired for. And then everyone else is doing it, kind of boosts the motivation. I think the tricky part is, you know, when everyone's at quitters, you know, quitters day or whatever, then, you know, it does that apply there too? That if everyone's
Right.
quitting, you know,
Is everybody else quitting? Then I should too. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
difficult to
And you
sustain.
think about all of the ceremonies that really start, I think, back to school, right? Back to
Hmm.
school, there's certain routines and ceremonies, and everybody's taking their picture, and
Right, rituals that we have.
rituals, and then we have Halloween, and then we have Thanksgiving, and then we have Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all the winter holidays,
Yeah.
and all of that is just steeped in routine and celebration and social connection. And
Hmm.
then it tops it all off with the ball drop, right? With New Year's, and literally all over the world people are doing
Hmm.
this. You can go watch the ball drop in a foreign country. Like, so
Yeah.
people, this is a shared celebration, and
Yeah.
you can feel it. So it makes sense that this is the time of year where people are like, yeah, I'm going to do that too. Because we want to feel like we're all connected, and sometimes we feel like we've been disconnected. It's very ironic. We have more technology to connect us, but yet we do feel less connected
Yeah.
in real life. And
Hmm.
so there might be some sort of a psychological pull to participate in a New Year's resolution because other people are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. That connection to other people who are participating in that ritual, and then the sense of renewal, right? That like renewal and connection, the beginning of the year, and it's going to be different this time. The other thing, one of the other things that causes us to want to do the, participate in the New Year's resolution is that our reward and motivation centers are activated by goal setting, right? And so usually when we're doing a New Year's resolution, that involves some sort of a goal, whether it's well defined or not, which is important. When we are pursuing a goal, that's when the dopamine centers in our brain light up, not when we've actually achieved it.
Achieve.
It's in the
Yeah.
pursuit of it, right? So that's another reason why, like, we get that dopamine hit, that good feeling from pursuing that goal. How long that lasts is variable. Um,
Yeah, it's progress
yeah,
over outcome.
yeah, and I mean, yes, the achievement is does light up our brain as well, but that pursuit is really something that does engage those motivation and reward centers, and that feels good for us, right? To be striving for something, to be achieving something, and so that motivates us to try to participate in that.
And it's not
More or less.
always easy to keep motivation. So, motivation is real, and we need to really step on the gas when it's there.
Yeah.
But it is fragile, and it is susceptible to things coming up and setbacks and adversity. So, motivation is real, but it's fragile.
And I think that's why one of the reasons why we always come back to the tiniest next step is because that motivation is fragile. And if your if the hurdle is low enough, then that motivation is more sustainable, right? I don't have to run the whole marathon today. I can I can run a half mile, quarter mile. I can go around the block,
Right.
and that sustains that motivation for when you have more.
And sometimes when you set that bar low, you actually overcome that.
You exceed it, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so why do resolutions fail? We said, well, because life comes up, because it's complicated, but why?
So sometimes we set our sights a little too high. Our goals are too big and not realistic. They might be too vague, not defined well enough, and it gives us just enough wiggle room
To
to
wiggle
lose that
out?
to wiggle out, right? We haven't planned appropriately for those setbacks that are going to happen. Haven't um, we haven't figured out our support, right, for those times that are difficult. We encounter a setback and we don't have those plans in place. We don't have plan B and C and D to help us to stick with it. We also might be overconfident in our abilities. We set our sights too high, and so we think we can do this thing fairly easily, and our expectations of ourselves and our situation are unrealistic. Um, and then there's the frustration tolerance. We get frustrated, and it makes it more likely that frustration leads to quitting versus resilience. Like, we get frustrated with lack of progress or how difficult it is, and instead of evaluating and figuring out the resilience piece and the resilience factor, we quit. Um, we might. You were about to say something.
I was thinking that I think one of the reasons that it's so important to think about your future self is to
Mm,
understand that there will be frustrations. And can you
yeah.
visualize what that frustration is?
Hmm.
And if you can visualize it ahead of time,
Hmm.
you're more likely to tolerate it because
Yeah.
it's now familiar. Oh yeah, I'm going to feel like eating that entire plate of cookies. I need to walk past it I need to eat somewhere else. I need to sit there and look at them and be able to tolerate it. And
Yeah.
if you can say that to yourself ahead of time, that frustration tolerance is going to be greater. You're going to be able to handle more.
Or even just acknowledging this is a lofty goal, or even if it's not a lofty goal, this is a goal, and with goals come temptation, setback, frustration. Like, acknowledge that there will be frustration. Even if you can just do that and say, when I get frustrated, I'm going to take an extra step this time instead of go straight to Quitter's Friday, or Quitter's Day, which I'm seeing in my notes is the second Friday in January. It's not in February. It's like earlier
Mm.
than I thought. So
Yeah. So maybe you make a goal of making it to February 1st.
honestly, if you can make it past January, you're doing better than
Yeah, you're
apparently a lot of other people.
mhm.
So we might have thought patterns that sabotage us as well. That's another reason why we fail. We might expect to fail because we didn't do it last time. Last year's New Year's resolution didn't work out. And so we might have some negative self-talk around it. And then we might be exposed to or see or hear other people talking about how, negatively about setting resolutions. Oh yeah, I set this resolution last year, but it didn't work. I didn't, I
Mhm.
quit by the second Friday in January, right? Or, or whatever. So we may not actually believe that we can do this thing. Um, we might not emotionally or physically be ready to make a resolution and stick to it, right? And emotional readiness often comes from a pain point, like I was talking about before. Like, staying the same isn't yet more, painful enough to motivate change, right? Often the changes in my life that have stuck are from a pain point that it's like, you know what? I'm sick of myself. I'm sick of this. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And that staying the same was more painful than changing. So remembering our why. Why do we want to do this?
Mhm.
What's the future me I either want to be, right? Or want to have or want to do? And keeping that in mind. I know for a certain, let me just give a disclaimer. I know for a certain portion of our population, remember your why will be triggering. So I should have done a trigger warning before I said that phrase. But remember your why is really when you're looking at a goal, that can be really motivating. So, um, when we're thinking about readiness, we might want to mention the stages of change because depending on where you are in those stages of change, you may not be ready. So, pre contemplation is like you're aware that something might need to change, and that's the first step. Contemplation is thinking about change, right? Contemplating, well, I think I might like to change. Preparation is planning and gathering the tools, and I think sometimes that's where we fall down.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
think I'm going to change and I'm going to do this, but we don't plan for what could go wrong.
And I just
Um,
want to add on to that one a little bit that
mhm.
gathering the tools can be physical tools, but they can also be mental tools. They
Yes.
can be like how I need to have frustration tolerance.
Hmm.
That is something I'm going to need if I'm going to avoid
Hmm.
X, Y, or Z, like that
Yeah.
plate of brownies, or I'm going to avoid complaining for a month, or I'm going to avoid, getting into arguments. Like
Hmm.
whatever it is that you're trying to avoid, you're going to have some amount of temptation and
Hmm.
avoiding that. And that's a mental tool.
Yeah.
That's not something that's available in your environment. That's in you. And I think part of this is really hard because it is inside you. It feels like almost like a personal failure when you can't do it
Yeah.
or can't do it well, and you got to be able to pick yourself back up and show some resilience
Hmm.
because it's gonna. And so I think normalizing some of those things can really help too. Like you're gonna fall down, you're gonna eat the
Yeah.
cookies, you're gonna start complaining, you're gonna do the things. So
And the mental work might have to do with, and imagine us talking about inner work, that's not like it's part and parcel of what we talk about here, but I think the mental work can have to do with your physical environment too. And to
yeah,
piggyback on what you were saying about, um, you know, falling down. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall down. You're going to fail. That just means your bar needs to be set lower, right? That just means you need to figure out what in your environment you need to change. It means you need to take a smaller step. That means you need to shift something so that you can be successful. Think about a goal we might set for a kid or something we might ask a kid to do who is learning. We are not going to ask them to do this way up here, or if we
Right.
do and they fail, we're going to go, okay, what do we need to scaffold? What do we need to support? You can do that with yourself. Okay, I wasn't successful there. Let me look at that instead of, meh, quit, this is too hard. Let me look at that and what's easier and more within my reach, but still gets me towards this goal, that this resolution that I want to get to. I think that is another reason why we quit, is because of all or nothing thinking.
Right. If
Oh,
if
if
our
I,
rungs if our rungs on the ladder are too far apart, put
yeah,
some extra ones in there.
put some
Like,
extra ones in there. And if you
that's it.
fall a couple rungs down, that's okay. Just climb back
Come back
up,
up.
right?
That's right.
It doesn't have to be, I'm going to be sugar free for an entire year, and then you eat a cookie, and so forget it.
Yeah.
Like, no, that just means you start over,
Right.
right? And I think when you're making a resolution, I think that's something to think about, is the all or nothing resolutions are rife for failure.
Hmm.
You know, if you have and we'll get into this at the end, maybe alternatives, if you have a gentler sort of intention or idea, that can be an easier sell for your brain, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So let's go over that list again. We have pre-contemplation,
Hmm.
contemplation, preparation. Now we're on to action.
Action, right? Making the change. This is where the success happens, right? So you have your plans, you have your tools, and then you are doing the hard work of making this thing happen. And that's the action phase. And then maintenance, sustaining the change. And that can also be an area where people struggle. Like,
Hmm.
I've achieved this, and then the maintenance can be difficult if it hasn't become, enough
Of a habit.
a habit. Yeah, something you don't even think about. You do without thinking. Um,
And I think
so
that action one is usually what people start with. Well, I'm going to just start with
do
doing
the thing.
something or taking something away.
Yeah,
They don't realize that there are other steps that can help them to be
yeah,
successful.
yeah. So when we're thinking about resolutions, how to be more successful with resolutions, if you are in the camp that wants to do them. If you don't want to do resolutions, that's okay. We've got something for you at the end. So if you want to be more successful with resolutions, setting a SMART goal, especially the realistic part of the R in SMART, right? It has to be realistic. Um, if it's not realistic, then the likelihood that you're going to fail increases, right? So there are lots of things online about SMART goals, but just briefly: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So all of those things should go into your goal, and then having it be values aligned. If you're acting against your values, it's harder, right? And if you're finding resistance in something that in a goal that you're trying to meet, take a look at your values, and is this conflicting with any of my values, um, and then approach oriented versus avoidance oriented, like I'm going to stop doing this versus I'm going to
And just
start
start.
doing this,
Hmm.
right? So more of a strengths based approach, more of a positive um, representation of what you want versus what you don't want.
Yeah,
um,
I'm going to give an example with groceries. Okay.
yes.
I'm going to stop eating junk food. I'm going to start buying healthier foods
Hmm.
and minimizing the junk foods that even come into my house.
Yeah.
So now you have you know you that's it's I think it's the black and white that gets
Hmm.
so tricky. It's like, well, if you make one failure, then you failed. Well,
Yeah.
no. There are some gray areas with this. So what we can do is we can increase our odds by controlling our environment, by using it in a positive way. Like, I am a person who makes good choices. I am a person who is healthy. So when you go to the store, you can weigh the food options. Is this a healthy choice? What
Yeah.
am I bringing into my house?
Yeah.
And pro tip, eat a little bit before you go to the store. So you're
Don't
not
go hungry.
starving for every barbecue chip.
Yeah, so you're looking at what you want to do more of instead of what you want to stop doing. It's less of a deficit sort of, grind model, and more of a, I'm going to start doing this thing. Another way that you can be more successful is use support, have
Hmm.
social support. If you want to run a half marathon this year or a 5K or anything at all, join a running club and it's enjoyable and you find people who are your pace and there's that social support and you want to go, and accountability too. That's the other piece, is the accountability. And accountability is better when it's fun, right? Because if it's just like, ooh, accountability, then you're not going to want it. But if it's a fun social accountability, and you have like somebody that you check in with, and you laugh about the failures, and you hold each other accountable for what's going to change this week, that can be help you be so much more successful. So that accountability and support. And then you referenced it a little bit, visualizing, expecting setbacks and visualizing
Hmm.
what you're going to do with them. So I have a story I tell the kids all the time, about Michael Phelps,
Oh
the
yeah.
most decorated swimmer ever, unless he's been dethroned by a female swimmer recently. I don't think so, but she's coming close. Um, and how he used to visualize races with his goggles all cattywampus, because that's going to happen at some point. And it was interesting when my child was swimming for a while. They actually had the kids put their goggles on cockeyed and dive in and swim a race, because they want them to be prepared for those times when things go wrong.
Hmm.
But particularly if it's a goal that you could be tempted to, maybe you're trying to quit eating junk food, quit smoking, quit drinking alcohol, quit whatever else that you feel like needs quitting, really visualizing with all of your senses being in that situation where it could go really south, right? And visualizing handling it successfully and doing that over and over. But then also expecting, like making plans for, if you're not into the visualizing thing, making plans for, okay, if I show up to this holiday party and they have this no holds barred food that I love, what is my plan? Right? The thing that, okay, yes, this whole tray, I'm going to sit in the corner and this is mine. I don't know what you're going to serve to everybody else, but like that kind of a food where you just can't stop,
Yeah.
then plan what you're going to do for that. I'm going to eat a little something before I go, or I'm
Yeah.
going to be on the other side of the room,
Yes.
or I'm going to engage the accountability of a friend,
Yes.
So
100%.
creating those plans.
I'm going to try and remember everybody's name. I'm going to be so busy doing
Right.
all of these other things that I'm not going to be as interested in the food.
Or before I get to that tray, I have to talk to five people and then
Oh,
I can go
nice.
to the tray. I don't know.
Exactly.
Get creative. Use your
Yes.
your creative imagination.
And
Um,
when we do have, I guess, realistic planning,
mhm,
and we plan for those setbacks, it could actually have give us a mental toughness, like,
mhm.
because then once you've done something that's really hard, now you have that in your memory, like, oh,
Yeah,
I already did something that's hard, and
I'm capable.
I can do this.
Hmm.
So, and you can't buy that. Nobody can give that to you. That comes
It's
through,
earned.
yeah, it comes through earning
Mhm.
it. That's
Yeah.
right.
So if you do choose, though, to use visualization, planning will help. Um, and coming up with accountability will help. If you do choose to visualize, some of the benefits of that are that it reduces false hope, and it increases realistic planning and follow through, because it gives you the time and space. You're not just like ready, set, go, I'm going to start on the action. You're really thinking about what could go wrong, and not in a fatalistic way, but in a motivated way to, or a way that is motivated to create the structure around it so that you can
Hmm.
be successful. It strengthens your self regulation, because you already know going in, this could be tough. I have my strategies, I'm ready to go. It builds that emotional readiness, right? You know that you can handle, or you suspect because you have done this planning, that you can handle situations. And then I think in general, it strengthens if then sorts of thinking and coping, which we all need, not just for
Hmm.
resolutions, but to be resilient in our everyday life. If this happens, then this is what I'm going to do.
And I'd like to just un unshackle that from the what if thinking. Because what
Yeah.
if thinking to me is the unhelpful. kind of thinking. That's like getting stuck in rumination. We are
Yeah.
thinking, okay, well, if this happens, then here is my plan.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't come with the plan, we don't need it. We need to kick it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I would say what if is um, definitely anxious thinking.
Hmm.
Anxiety is really great at what if. And um, I think it's fairly easy to tell the what if and the symptoms that come with it going into anxiety versus the if then,
Right.
if I encounter this situation, then here's what I'm going to do. I mean, you could do if then with anxious thinking too, but I think when it comes to resolutions, if you're doing the what if and starting to feel anxious, maybe you need to take a look at your resolution and what's going on there. Can you start smaller? Can you shift things a little so that you're feeling a little more settled? Or can you find a really good strategy that helps you shrink your anxiety? Because some people's like resolution might be, I'm going to get really good at public speaking. That has never been my favorite, right? The heart racing, the jello legs, that's my favorite. And so, like, if that's your resolution, great. And it starts to the what if and the anxiety starts coming in, then you're going to have to double down on your emotional regulation strategies and really dive into how can I shrink and manage my anxiety because it's going to be there.
Right.
Everybody has it. It's just in varying degrees, right? If we didn't have any anxiety, probably wouldn't filter what we said. We wouldn't,
Right.
there's a lot that anxiety helps us, you know, navigate.
Navigate,
It
manage, and
tells us
also
what to,
survive. We're wired that way on purpose because it's kept us alive. And so we do need a certain amount of that
Mhm. That's
to help
normal.
us. Yeah.
It's just when it gets in the way.
Right.
And anxiety might get in the way of some of your resolutions. And so then you have to take a look at where am I starting? Do I need to start lower or smaller? And what support do I have? What strategies, what people, what, environments do I have to support me in shrinking my anxiety to reach this resolution, to achieve this resolution that I have?
And we want to add in some supports to make our motivation sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do? What can we do to set ourselves up for success? So like I said, it's not just action we're looking for.
Hmm.
There's there's surrounding steps that can really help us to be more successful. Preparedness beats motivation. Like
Yeah, because your motivation will wane, right? And so being prepared with what's going to happen when my motivation does wane, how small can I go and still keep going, right? Sustain that motivation. Like I showed up. And then some days you're going to be more motivated to do more. But at least that day that you didn't feel motivated, you showed up and kept the streak going. And if you don't show up one day, show up the next, right? It's not all or nothing. So, if you are in the, I don't feel so hot about resolutions, or you're in the I don't do them camp, there is a middle ground,
right.
right? Alternatives to traditional resolutions, something like intentions or themes, like a theme for the year. Some people do like a word for the year, and there are camps on that one too. A word for the year I tend to like because it can be a North Star if you can remember it. Post it. Like I think I think we talked in other episodes about posting stuff up for, visual support so that but it can keep you when you start to drift. It can go, oh yeah, my intention, my word for the year was joy. And what am I doing over here in the pit of despair, right?
Right.
What can I do that supports my desire for that to be, a guiding light in my year? I can go play with my kid, go ride my bike, get in the ocean. Like, what supports your joy if that's your word for the year? If your word for the year is motivation, like setting a word for the year is like setting an intention for the year. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I want to build. Again, that, what do I want more of, not what do I want less of? This is what I want to build for my year this year.
Yeah, maybe
So,
consistency is your word, or curiosity, or even wellness or rest.
yeah.
Like, think about what's personal to you and not
Mhm.
just because you're not doing this for somebody else.
Mm-mm.
This, you really need to take this on as something that's actually valuable to you.
Right,
So,
based on your values, not somebody else's, right?
yeah,
Like you're if you're setting an intention based on somebody else's values, you're likely going to fail, right? So if you're sticking to your values and it's broad, right? If it's sometimes more broad categories or umbrellas can be more overwhelming, but sometimes it gives you the wiggle room to say, hey, I tried this over here to meet this intention and it didn't quite work for me. So I have the flexibility to do something different, still underneath that umbrella. And I'm still successful at focusing on this umbrella term or this umbrella intention. I'm just figuring out what works. And anything that I do is meeting that resolution or that intention, excuse me, not resolution. So it's more success oriented or more likely to be successful. And it is less outcome driven, which can be better,
Right.
right? You can have a process based goal, which is based on controllable actions. It's not, I'm going to lose 15 pounds. It's, I'm going to
Stop,
exercise.
stop
In,
buying groceries that are bad for me,
right.
you know?
So it could be I'm going to intentionally move my body 3 times a week or intentionally move my body more than I am now, right? And that if you're not moving your body at all, 1 day a week, you're successful. Do you want to build on that? Probably. But can tend to be more easier to be successful at, if that makes sense. So you're focusing on controllable actions. You might want to do also instead a seasonal check-in. Chunk your year instead of like, for the year, my word is this. For the fall, this is what I'm going to focus on. For the fall, I know this happens this time of year every single year, and it's not my favorite. And so what I'm going to focus on is this one area I can control, an intention I'm going to set to be more present, to be more active, to be more whatever it is you want to be. And then you don't have to, like, you don't have this huge 12 months ahead of you, right? You can break it down into smaller chunks.
And then also compassionate goals. So
Mm-hmm.
be realistic. There are great areas. There's learning focus too. So focus on the learning for yourself,
Yeah,
not necessarily the outcome. Because honestly, that's where the motivation is anyway.
yeah,
When you learn something new, it's highly motivating. When you check something off your list, maybe that gives you a small dopamine hit, but it's really the checking it off the list, not the actual finishing of it.
yeah.
Have you ever written something down just to cross it off?
Oh, yes. Maybe yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I think when we're talking about compassionate goals, it's not that you're letting yourself off the hook or you're not striving. It's that you recognize that progress isn't linear and it's not a straight line to your goal. That if you have a setback, you're like, okay, you've built in flexibility and the learning mindset. I think sometimes when we set goals, even like SMART goals, we don't build in the learning. We just see that we didn't do it and we think we failed,
Right.
And so I think when we put a different lens on it and we recognize progress isn't linear and celebrate any progress, that number one, I think it can increase your motivation because you're recognizing that although you didn't meet here, I always struggle with that, where are my hands? Here. Right? If you didn't meet here, you did get here, and that's still progress, and that still is worthy of celebration. So
And what happens when nothing goes to plan? Your resolution is not panning out. What decisions what questions can we ask?
yeah,
Should we keep going or should we quit? When is the right time to do which?
I think that's going to be highly variable, and I think that it's something you can plan ahead of time. But I would also encourage flexibility. So sometimes we get into sunk costs and we think, oh, I've invested all of this time and energy already. I have to keep going. That's not necessarily true. And I don't have a magic answer for this, really, when you should quit. But I think it is something that you can try to plan for. You might build in a set of, I think Annie Duke in her work called it kill criteria. So when you, the point at which you're going to get out no matter how much you have sunk into it, right?
Yeah.
And
And it
so,
can be strategic. It's not necessarily a failure, it's a choice.
yeah, it's a choice that when I get to this point, I'm out. No matter what I've sunk into it, this is the point at which I am not willing to go anymore. I think this gets tricky because frustration usually equals quitting. And so to push through that frustration, you have to be a little uncomfortable. So discomfort, I don't think can be a criteria for it's time to quit,
Right.
right? Extreme discomfort, absolutely. Like if you're extremely uncomfortable and it's affecting your mental health, yeah, that's a great time to quit and or find support, right? That's a signal you need more support, or maybe your goal is too big. So when we talk about quitting, I feel like revising might be,
Yeah.
you know, a better, in terms of your long-term feelings about yourself, I think revising your goal might be a better idea than quitting, depending on your goal. Um, so setting kill criteria, like this is the point at which I'm not willing to go past, and then um, revising your goal. And then I think checking for underlying issues goes along with that. Like there may be something going on that you weren't aware of emotionally or physically, medically, depends on your goal, but there might be an underlying issue that is really causing that resistance or that needs to be addressed first.
And we
Like,
want to be unhooking this from our own guilt.
yeah.
Oh, I've invested all this money into this degree, but I don't like it at all.
Hmm.
There's a lot of guilt there. Maybe it's even money that you borrowed. Like that's hard. So how can you unhook from that guilt? And also, how can you unhook these goals from your identity? Like if maybe instead of saying, well, I'm a person who finishes, you can say, well, I'm a person who looks at things critically and makes strategic choices.
Hmm.
So, like, how can we shift without losing kind of our self worth and our value?
It all starts up here. Yeah, I think um, when you're talking about identity and all of the things that you're just, talking about stemming from our thoughts, perceptions, beliefs about ourselves that we have developed through our experiences, you have more power than you think over how you navigate this, about how you feel about this, about what you're thinking about this, right? Unhooking is a conscious effort, and it might necessitate you shifting your thoughts, perceptions, and beliefs.
Yeah.
Really, I'm going to come back to catch, check, and change. Catch what you're thinking about it. Check it. Is this true? Really true? Is this helpful for me? Right? Is this helping me be the person that I want to be, or do I need to let it go? And then changing it. Can I shift this thought, perception, belief to something that either helps me reach this goal or helps me let go of it and recognize that's not really who I want to be, or I would be doing better at this. This is really not aligned with my values. Or I'm not ready. I need to start somewhere different, and that's okay. Like, I think we need to give ourselves permission to start wherever we are. Yes, there's something great about being aspirational, but that doesn't mean you have to start way up here. It means you need to assess where you are now and start a place that makes sense and that sets you up for success. That's slightly out of your reach, not totally out of your reach. That's likely that you're going to be successful so you can build on that. Right? If you set it way up here over your head, you may not even be able to sustain very long. So if you set something way up here, set your ladder rungs, right? Where you want to get first, where you want to get next, and where you want to get after that.
Staying isn't always strength, leaving isn't always failure.
Yeah.
We have hopefully opened your eyes to the fact that it's not yes or no. There might be some wiggle room as to how you decide on your reflections, your resolutions, and that there are steps that we can take to greatly increase our chances of success by putting those rungs of the ladder closer together and by starting internally with cognitive skills to help us along our way and to reevaluate as we go, to keep the temperature, the weather in mind, because things do change and we are smart, capable people and we can figure it out. even if it's a little messy.
Usually is, right?
What, so what's going to be your tiniest next step?
So for me, in considering, I mean, I love a fresh start and resolutions really speak to me, but I don't think I'm going to do a resolution this year. I think I'm going to set an intention. And initially coming into this episode, I thought I was going to select an area, like an intent, set an intention and a compassionate goal. But I think what I might do instead, which is more aligned with my values and just how I operate, is a seasonal intention. Not even a goal, but like a focus for the season. And I think for the winter season, January, February, probably focus on wellness. And that's a really broad area, but I know very specifically where I have the spots I have neglected this fall. So going into the winter season, I think I'm going to set a seasonal focus. And in the spring, I'll check in and see where I'm at and if I want to keep that focus for the spring season, or if there's something else that has come up that has either a larger pain point or just something that is more, I'm more motivated. Maybe it's something that lights me up versus something that is a pain point. But just checking in.
Well, my next step is going to really take an extended internal check, figuring out what are my pain points that I don't realize. Because I think we as humans are very capable of seeing what bothers us from other people,
Yeah.
but not as much our own baggage that we have to
Yeah.
unpack. Because our baggage will go decades and just stay all locked up. And I feel like my first goal is to find out what the baggage is that I have, and then what's one pain point that I want to figure out. And I'm not even sure what it is yet because I'm very growth oriented. I love to keep getting better and I'm constantly reflective. And I'm going to make all of those goals like every day, sometimes 6 times a day for different areas of my career or home life. But I feel like if there's going to be one big goal, it's going to be internal. And I'm going to try and get like an accurate lens at looking at myself and really checking in with how I feel about things. So I don't know that that's a tiny next step, but it
I was
is
gonna
not going to
say.
be, it's not going to be an entire year,
Yeah.
because that's, for me, that New Year's resolution it's too long. Like a lot of life happens in a year. If you think about like the last year and how many things have happened and how many things we've been exposed to and how many things we've had to deal with,
Yeah.
even on a 1 day basis, like the
Yeah.
amount of things we have to cope with and deal with is pretty intense at times. So
And if you've had,
I want to do it on a shorter time frame.
yeah, and if you've had like major stressors, the loss of a loved one, a move, job change, all of that, that's even more reason to keep it small because you've been through a lot this year, right? And so I think that's why we focus on the tiniest next step. And when you were talking, I'm thinking that doesn't sound very tiny. So I wonder, like, as you're going through
Yes.
it,
How do I make it tinier?
yeah, is how do you make it tinier? And I mean, that almost sounds like a life goal,
Yeah.
like a multi-year goal, because that's the work that we do is
Well,
looking at
I'm not
inward.
looking at all the baggage. I'm
Oh,
going to
good. I was
try
gonna say
and
just one
find
suitcase.
one like uh, one travel bag that fits in the overhead compartment.
Good. Okay.
So like that size. We're going to
Okay.
try for that first
Yeah.
and see how that goes. And I think once one of those is gone, it will be easier to unpack the rest of the airplane.
Yeah. So what I hear is I'm going to focus on the processes and skills to unpacking the baggage, not necessarily, I mean, yes, the
Yeah,
baggage too,
yeah.
but I'm going to use the process and skills to start unpacking more of my baggage. Is
Yes.
that,
That,
uh,
yes,
did I
yes.
get it? Okay.
Nailed it.
Okay. Woohoo. All right. So, friends, we hope that you have gotten a nugget or two from this that either um, helps you to feel more grounded in your resolution practice, gives you an alternative to a resolution, or sets you free from them altogether. It's up to you. Um, but I have to say, for me, it has been a really good episode to um, participate in this time of year because it helps me to clarify, what do I want to do? The end of the year always sneaks up on me, and I'm like, oh, resolution. Okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to change? And this year, I'm like, just sort of forced me to be thoughtful about it, and that was such a good thing for me. So I hope that everybody else found it helpful too.
And remember, you're not alone. None of us has this figured out completely, but we can support each other through this one step at a time.
Yeah. So if you did like what you heard today, please click subscribe and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought, if you're going to do a resolution, if you're not, if you're going to set an intention. And give yourself grace. Small progress adds up to, or small steps adds up to big progress, and just keep going.
And just keep showing up, and we'll see you next time.